From the comeback of Aero bikes to Chinese bike brands shaking up the world tour and the promise of easier bike maintenance, here's what you can expect to see in 2025. Yes, that's right, folks. It's time for my wild tech predictions, which I'm sure will be all wrong, but it's fun looking ahead anyway. We'll also talk about how gravel bikes are continuing to evolve next year. This interesting mix of endurance, all-road and gravel bikes into one perfect road bike that really encapsulates the riding that most of us do. And also talk about the shift from manufacturing in Asia to much closer to home. So without further ado, let's dive in. While aerodynamic road bikes have never truly disappeared, 2025 could mark a new wave of innovation. We've seen an interesting few years of several big bike brands drop a pure aero bike in favour of one all-round aero and lightweight bike like the Specialized Timer SL8 and like the Trek Madone SLR. And the reason why is because the UCI have relaxed some of its frame design rules, which give designers a bit more space, a bit more freedom, by replacing the 3:1 rule, which limited the ratio of a tube's height to its width, and replaced it with a more generous 8:1. And the first brand I know of to use this is the Carnago Y1RS, the most radical bike launched this year. And they told me, the designer told me, they didn't really push up against the constraints of the UCI's sort of imaginary boxes for where all the frame components have to fit, but gave them space despite not pushing the limits to do things they couldn't do with the previous 3:1 rule. And definitely a bike that I'm sure is beyond the wildest imagination of anybody in the UCI head office. And it has me wondering what other wild designs might these new rules unleash in 2025. Nothing as amazing or beautiful as the Lotus 108 track bike, I'm sure, but we might see brands really explore new designs they couldn't before. Take the Cervelo S5 for example, a bike well due for an update. It's a few years old now, but when it came out it was a wild bike and had the same sort of reaction that the new Carnago Y1RS is getting right now, with crazy handlebar and the frame design. And Cervelo is a brand with a rich heritage of aero design and really pushing the boundaries of aero road bike design. So could the new S5, if it's called an S5 or S6, be something equally as radical, crazy and shocking as the Carnago Y1RS? Or is that bike just an appetizer for what we might see next year? I have no idea, but I can't wait to see what they come out with. And this renewed interest in aero bikes right now is because racing in the World Tour peloton is super fast, insane levels of speed right now, and riders need every edge, every gain they can get. So expect aero tech to remain a top priority for World Tour teams and their bike sponsors. And it's worth noting that Carnago has never really done the aero bike thing. Yes, they had a concept for a few years, but short-lived indeed. Their focus has been on the V platform, the V series, launched back in 2013. I think I first rode that bike when I was working at RoCC, and that was billed as a semi-aero bike, so aero and lightweight. Years before Specialized came along with one bike to rule them all, after telling us that aero is everything for many years with Avenge. Which leads me on to the main point of this section. Could we see a new Specialized Avenge in 2025? It's a bike, despite disappearing in 2020 when the Timer SL7 came along and replaced it, is a bike that many people clearly miss and desire and hanker after. I see comments for the Avenge and Return of the Avenge. It probably has its own hashtag as well. So a bike, if Specialized can eat their marketing words, we could see a return, but in a new direction, thanks to the way the UCI rules give the designers, engineers a bit more freedom around how wild an aero bike can be and how potentially aero it can be too. So this is big, massive in fact. 2025 will see a Chinese bike brand, XDS, sponsor the Astana World Tour team. I mean, wow, I never saw this coming at all. While Chinese brands like Winspace, Yolio and Seeker and others have gained popularity in recent years, it's been at the edges, the fringes of the cycling space. But this Chinese company, XDS, sponsoring a World Tour team is on another level of visibility and putting a Chinese bike brand, a company that both designs and manufactures in China rather than designs in California or Europe and manufactures in China or Taiwan, puts Chinese bike brands into another level of really taking the Western world a lot more seriously than they have done in the past. So the team will apparently ride the X-Lab AD9, an aero bike tested at the Silverstone wind tunnel, and its resemblance to the Cannondale System 6 is striking. Very close similarity indeed. There's also a lightweight model the team can choose as well. And despite being a bike company I've never heard of before, they have an annual production of 10 million bikes, so pretty big indeed. But for now, availability in Europe and the US remains unclear. But this definitely marks a massive moment for Chinese bike brands. But if Trump gets his way with new tariffs potentially on the horizon next year, then maybe the Chinese bargains we've been used to for the last few years won't be bargains anymore. So watch this space. And what about gravel bikes next year? What can we expect to see from off-road bikes in 2025? For me, I predict more refinement instead of any drastic evolution, with the market splitting into two clear camps. So race-focused bikes on one hand and adventure-focused bikes on the other hand. And we'll see the rise of ever more lightweight, aerodynamic gravel race bikes designed to keep up with the increasingly competitive racing scene, especially in the US and the UCI Gravel Series. While on the other side, the adventure bikes will continue pushing boundaries, with wide tyre compatibility edging furthermore into mountain bike territory. And this year we even saw gravel bikes fitted with mountain bike tyres, not for the first time, and mountain bikes fitted with drop handlebars, definitely blurring the line between gravel and mountain bike ever more than before. Is it a passing fad? Is it a trend? Is it here to stay? I have no idea. But I have been running mountain bike tyres on my gravel bike for an upcoming video, and the results are quite interesting and definitely not what I was expecting at all. And now to bikes that blur the line between endurance road and gravel. What some people are dubbing all-road bikes are definitely gaining traction next year. Worth mentioning that for longer time viewers and followers of cycling, all-road is nothing new. We've had this before. Way back in the early days of gravel, all-road in the UK was a name that was being passed around as an alternative to gravel, because gravel in the US doesn't really represent what we have here in the UK, and all-road, a mix of road and off-road, better summed up the riding and arguably still does. But gravel, as mountain biking in the 80s, 90s, is a name that stuck and is here to stay, and most people know what gravel means, even if they're not actually doing gravel the same way as it was born in the US. And for me, an all-road bike is similar to an endurance bike with space for at least 40mm wide tyres, if not wider, with a road biased geometry, so low bottom bracket and a long wheelbase, but adaptable for mixed terrain and mixed surfaces. And whether you call them endurance or all-road or something else, they are a natural fit for riders like myself and you watching, seeking comfort and flexibility without sacrificing speed. And if you're not racing, this is arguably a better bike. And there are some standout examples I rode last year that speak to this category, like the Bridge Surveyor and the 51 Seeker, which pivot between fast road performance and dirt road adventures really well. While bikes like the Cervelo Espero and Canyon Grail, which are gravel bikes, are equally adept at multi-terrain versatility as well. But ultimately, the versatility and suitability of these bikes for the riding you do often come down to tyre choice, and there's a lot better tyre choice than ever before. So wide fat slicks for road riding, or a fast rolling gravel tyre like a Schwalbe G1 RS, which lets you tailor your bike to the terrain and the roads and dirt tracks you are riding. But regardless of name, I think this category of bike, endurance, all-road, light gravel, whatever you want to call it, best encapsulates all the technology that has been coming through for the last 10 years and really matches and suits the riding that many people do. If you're not racing, why buy a race bike? Buy a road bike, which I think these bikes should be called. Drop endurance, drop all-road. It's just a road bike with sensible geometry, good tyre clearance, and a bike that's versatile for riding fast on a Sunday morning club run blast, or doing a bike packing trip, going touring, audaxing, commuting, the bike that does what you want it to do in 2025. But what do you think? Are you leaning more towards race, adventure or road? Drop a comment down below. The majority of bikes, regardless of material, carbon fibre or aluminium, are made in Asia, and that's fine. However, there is a rising trend of bike companies bringing the manufacturing closer to home, whether on the same continent or within the same country or even the same building. And there are a growing number of bike brands now claiming to make frames and bikes and components much closer to home. Like the Standard Fadfinder I reviewed recently, a steel bike now made in Europe, while Carnago is building its gorgeous, stunning Steel Novo in Italy as well. And Italian brands like 3T and Pirelli are making their frames and tyres in Italy as well. And smaller brands like Mason have been making their frames in Italy for a long time. And then further afield, there's a Scarab Cycles made in Colombia, and the Argonaut I reviewed made in the US as well. So a growing number of bike companies making their products either in-house, investing in the manufacturing capability and the staff they need to make those products, or finding manufacturers closer to home in the same country, on the same continent, which is a really good trend to see. And this shift for bike companies isn't about being patriotic or nostalgic. It does offer them greater control over quality, sustainability, and shorter lead times as well. But it comes at a cost. So does it matter to you where your bike is made? Are you willing to pay a premium, a high price for local manufacturing, or are affordability and performance your main priorities and you don't care where it's made? Let me know by dropping a comment down below. Bike tech has gone bananas over the last few years, but looks finally to have stabilised. But there are still some long-standing headaches to hopefully tackle in the future. So squeaky press fit bottom brackets are definitely on the way out after 10 years or so being the main bottom bracket for high-end bikes, with threaded bottom brackets like the old faithful 68 and the newer, bigger T47 becoming common. Even on top flight race bikes like a Specialized Tama SL8, the Carnago Y1 RS, or even a Trek Madone SLR. Personally, I don't actually mind press fit if it's done well like Giant does, but it seems most people, most consumers, most people watching the video probably want a good old-fashioned threaded bottom bracket, and that's a trend we're seeing this year and into next year too. We might finally see the back of the bendy, unreliable mech hanger, which is the weak link on a modern road bike. SRAM's UDH, Universal Derailleur Hanger, has become really popular very quickly indeed, and could replace hundreds of designs of mech hangers, and there are loads out there, with one universal hanger. But the real beauty of this system, the Trojan horse by SRAM, is doing away with the mech hanger entirely, as I said, the weak link on a road bike or gravel bike, and its new T-type rear derailleur, which clamps directly to the frame via this new UDH standard, first debuted on mountain bikes and now gravel bikes, and definitely coming to road bikes sometime in the future, has a much more robust and stronger interface. And what it means for us cyclists is that misaligned gears out of index due to a slightly bent hanger, are finally a thing of the past. And while expensive now, yes, I fully expect in the next few years, 5 years say, this tech to trickle down to low prices and most frames, and increasing group sets even from Shimano to adopt the technology. And ultimately it's a good thing for bikes, a good thing for us cyclists, because it's more reliable, more robust, gears don't go out of index, and if you have a normal rear derailleur, the mech hanger is easy to replace with one rather than 400 that there are right now. And I do expect to see Shimano launch something along similar lines to UDH in the very near future. That's another big tech trend for 2025 for sure. Bike prices, as we all know, soared in recent years, but falling demand has led to discounts across retailers, as I showed in a recent video linked above. There are some massive discounts to be had right now for brand new bikes. So will this continue in 2025? Will we see bike companies drop prices? Will there be some adjustment? Possibly not, because personally my mortgage, my energy bills, my food bills haven't come down after also spiking due to inflation in recent years. I can't see how bike prices, the same as car prices and house prices and other expensive consumer goods, which have also spiked in recent years, won't come crashing down anytime soon. And with ongoing economic strains and supply chain issues, price adjustments may stay modest at best. Interestingly, on the topic of how much demand there is for bikes, because demand, it seems, has dropped, one business website linked down below predicts the global bicycle market to keep growing from $122 billion in 2024 to $274 billion by 2032. And it says this is due to more interest in being health conscious, plus factors like rising traffic congestion and growing environmental concerns as well. So yeah, we might see more people buying bikes and getting into cycling in the future, which is a great thing for the sport and for cycling generally. But let me know your thoughts on this thorny topic of bike pricing by dropping a comment down below. Lastly, a bigger change on road bikes is bigger tyres. And I'm honestly surprised how openly many roadies have embraced wide tyres, because it seems once you tried them, once you go on fat, you can't go back to skinny. I've been on 28 and 30mm wide tyres for the past few years, and things could go supersized in 2025 because Pirelli has launched these bad boys, 40mm wide race tyres. Bonkers. So we're testing these very soon. Let me know what you think of wide tyres by dropping a comment down below. Are they too wide? Have we reached the limits of how wide a tyre you can have on a road bike before the weight and the aerodynamics counter the benefits of increased volume? So yes, full review coming very soon. Stay tuned for that by hitting the subscribe button on screen right now. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again very soon.